A video game addict finds himself in a new world inside a mysterious game called Aelin, and begins his journey to uncover the secrets of the summoner class, overcoming challenges with no clues or guidance.
This story begins as our protagonist's favorite game shuts down all of its servers. With the game gone, the protagonist realizes that he will have to touch his unfind and find games in Yaktobit. So, he gets to searching for a hardcore game on the internet, and comes across a game that claims to have no ending. With the protagonist's interest already at its peak, he starts feeling like he's up for a real challenge. So, he chooses the hardest difficulty, Hell Mode, and also the hardest class summoner. The second he hits play, the computer literally absorbs him inside the game world, and basically reincarnates him as a newborn youngling. His father is happy to learn that he's gotten a son and names him Aelin. Aelin receives a lot of love from both his parents, so he feels glad even though he's born into a poor farmer's family. Over the next couple of months, he learns that he is currently in a rural village where most of the people cultivate land and pay taxes to their feudal lord. Aelin's dad, Rudin, is a farmer and his mother, Teresia, is a housewife. Since both Rudin and Teresa are in their early 20s, Aelin believes that he will soon have younger siblings and can't wait to become part of a bigger family. One night, Aelin recalls the basic Isekai trope and uses the command stat window open. It works, but instead of a holographic system menu popping up, a grimoire appears, causing Aelin to freak out. He quickly uses the command stat window close before his parents come in and pretends as if he is asleep. After making sure the parameters are clear, he summons the grimoire again and goes through its pages. The first page has Aelin's stats written down, and as expected, all of them are at the lowest rank. The next page entails the details of Aelin's summoning skill, and reading it, Aelin learns that he apparently is already able to summon H-ranked insects and beasts. The book suddenly glows and flips itself to a new page. It's a message from Elmia, the creator of this world, who explains that the summoner class is still under beta testing, so he apologizes if Aelin faces any difficulties because of his chosen class. Aelin doesn't care about the message and proceeds to summon an insect, but no matter how many times he tries the incantation, the summoning spell just doesn't work. Aelin thinks hard for a solution and realizes that perhaps he needs to create the relevant beast first. So, he creates an H-ranked insect card. But as he's about to summon the beast, he notices that his mom, Teresia, is coming. So, he pretends to be asleep again, but ends up actually falling asleep. The next early morning, Rudin goes outside and starts chopping wood while Teresia gets to cleaning their clothes. As both parents are busy outside, Aelin uses this opportunity and uses the insect summoning spell, causing his room to be filled with luminescent balls of spirits. Fortunately for Aelin, his mom isn't paying attention, so he quickly gets on with it, and as the spirit balls are condensed once again, they manifest into a cat-sized grasshopper. Seeing its angry expression, Aelin wonders if this creature will even listen to his commands. He decides to still give it a try, and with his half-broken youngling voice, orders the bug to fly to his hands. Bug, however, turns the other way, making Aelin wonder if it's dumb or something. He suspects that the reason the grasshopper isn't listening to his commands must be because he hasn't met the necessary conditions yet. So, he checks the grimoire and looks at the grasshopper's stat menu. He picks the name Dina for the green bug and then looks at its stats when he learns that this tiny little insect actually gives him +1 endurance and agility. This fact causes Aelin to blurt out the word awesome on impulse, prompting his mom to enter the room. Seeing the ugly insect grosses Teresia out, and she instinctively stomps on it. Despite this accident, Aelin continues to test his summoning skill whenever he gets the opportunity, and one day decides to summon a beast. A white rat comes out, and as expected of an H-rank beast, it's also dumb as bricks, just like Dina. Still, Aelin gives it the name Mousy, and then looks at its stats when he learns that it actually has an ability called Scurry. Aelin manages to activate this ability, causing Mousy to scurry around him. This makes him wonder what kind of strong monsters he can potentially summon and control. For now, he can only create a total of 10 summoning cards. So, he creates 10 Mousy cards, and as a result, his attack stats get a plus boost because of Mousy's buff. With this boost, he can now easily chop wood, even though he's only a year old. But he still doesn't think it's enough. This makes him wonder how much easier the game would have been if he had chosen any other difficulty. So he regrets picking Hell mode. Rodin comes back home with myoglobin all over him, making Teresia worry if he's hurt. But Rodin claims to be fine, explaining that he went to a boar hunt earlier, which caused this. Rodin asks Aelin if he'd like to see the boar they've hunted down, and as Aelin excitedly nods, Rodin carries him to the place where the beast is being carved up. On their way there, they see a flock of birds called albihirons, who are no less than dinosaurs in size, so Rodin refers to them as monsters. Rodin tells Aelin a fun fact, saying that he named him after those birds, hoping that he too would live a free life and fly around wherever he wants to in this world. He sleeps off on Rodin's hands, as Rodin walks to take him to his creature. When they eventually arrive at the location, Rodin wakes him up and shows him the great boar. When he touches the great boar, the first thing he thinks about is the fact that the monster is so great, and he doubts that he can successfully defeat that kind of monster. One of their neighbors, Settei, walks up to Rodin and hypes him up as the star of the day. The other villagers there hail Rodin because that kind of victory isn't one that anyone can achieve. So Rodin had done so well. Settei notices Aelin and comments on Aelin's black hair and eyes. Aelin greets him in return, and he is shocked that Aelin can talk at the age of 1. He comments that Aelin is growing so much better than Krita, his daughter, who is about the same age as Aelin. Aelin asks about the Great Boar and how strong it is. So Settei explains that the Great Boar is a C-ranked monster. It isn't some Twartleman Tokilit. This only gives Aelin enough opportunity to gauge himself and think of how he could be better. 10 months pass by as fast as possible, and Aelin is now 1 year and 10 months old. He keeps trying his hand at his skills, and he realizes that he can now summon G-ranked monsters. He can also successfully fuse together H and G rank monsters. He has cards of both H and G ranked monsters and checks his cards, then tries to use his newly acquired power, but he gets a notification that he has low MP. He assumes the problem is hunger, so he goes to eat his meal. He rushes a huge plate of food, and his parents look visibly concerned. Turns to his room immediately to check his powers. When he tries to fuse the cards again, it doesn't work. Again, he has low MP. He considers summoning another card, but again, he has low MP. Eventually, he gives up on it. 3 years pass by, and Aelin is now 3 years old. He has gained enough strength and MP, and he can now fuse together his 2 cards. He fuses a G rank and an H rank card and gets a GH card. Then he summons a pet from the card. He successfully summons a bird G, and he is excited. The bird, which he names Chappie, is level 2 in agility and strength. Also has the skill voice mimic, which makes Aelin assume that he could validly use it against enemies when fighting. Aelin goes outside with his new pets. The first one is Hoppy, a tiny bird that hops. He asks Hoppy to hop, and he hopes to use the hopping to distract his opponents. The next is Molly, a pet that has the ability to dig. He asks Molly to dig, and Molly digs a hole, which he hopes to use to set a trap for his enemies. As he plans his imaginary life, he mistakenly falls into the hole that Molly had dug. This brings him back to the reality that he is just a child and he can't even fight anyone. It is 3 o'clock p.m., and this brings him more worries. He hears the voice that worries him and knows that she is around. The voice belongs to Krita, Settei's daughter, as she is there to play with him as usual. They play night games every day, so they both set out their swords to fight. Kita is faster than he can imagine, and she has so much strength that she overpowers the reincarnated protagonist. After hitting him as much as she could with no defense on his side, he falls down flat and loses the game. His parents arrive, and Teresa's stomach is now as big as he had earlier predicted, which means a sibling is coming. Teresa and our HDN ask Krita to return home, and they also go home. During dinner, Aelin suggests to his father that he would like to follow him to the farm to help with the harvest since his mother is pregnant and won't be able to help. Rodin refuses his offer, and Teresa also insists that she is strong enough to continue. They appreciate the fact that he has been helping with the house chores, but he is still a kid, and a 3-year-old boy shouldn't be on the farm. To him, he already has the strength of an adult and can take the burden off them. However, he understands that they wouldn't want him to do that, because no parents would want to subject their child to such a thing. Teresa tells him to continue playing with Krata. They comment about his night games with Krata and how good they are. Rodin informs him that with their present skills, they can't wait to see what their abilities will be during the appraisal ceremony. Aelin doesn't know about it, so Rodin explains that when they clock the age of 5, a ceremony will be held where they will learn what skills they have. If they get good skills, they will be able to break out of serfdom. Rodin also comments that he has been seeing Aelin throwing stones at the tree outside and inquires why. Aelin lies that it is because they told him there are monsters outside, so he wants to throw stones at them to protect his mother. The real reason he has been throwing stones is to confirm if he has any other skills besides summoning. The following day, he practices his summoning. He has gotten to the stage where he can summon all day without getting tired. He looks at his Andankatu, but gets distracted when Krita arrives. They go for their usual duel, and as usual, he loses and falls. Rodin arrives and Teresia comes to greet him. Unfortunately, Dina hops onto her and she falls in fear. She recovers after the scare jump, but suddenly gets severe stomach aches. Her water has broken and the baby is on its way. Rodin commits Krita to get her mother Matilda, while he takes Teresa to the bed, trying to help in his own way. Aelin helps to boil water. He goes to inform them that the water is hot. And coincidentally, Matilda arrives too. She sends the men out of the room and helps Teresia with the delivery. The men are almost asleep outside the house when Teresa gives birth, and they call them in excitedly. Aelin now has a brother, and Rodin names the child Mash, a name that Teresa questions, asking if it isn't also the name of a monster. Rodin reacts with a smile that shows her she is right. Seeing the excitement on everyone's face, Aelin wonders why he was reincarnated, removing the fact that he is a game addict who just wanted to level up into a new game. He was nothing but a work addict who was lonely and lived a poor life in his previous world. There is nothing for him to miss in that life, and if he is being fair, he loves the idea of his new family. For now, all he wants to do is get his family out of serfdom. Teresia calls him to greet the baby. He goes to greet the child, who bursts into tears. He is terrified by this, and they jokingly tell him that kids are just like that. Aelin is undoubtedly enjoying his new life. However, fingers crossed to see his growth. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe so you won't miss new episode every week.
After that, years pass and the child reaches the age of 5, asking his father how the appraisal ritual works. His father explains that during the ritual, if they discover he possesses a talent, he will be able to leave the status of serf. However, he must be very patient, because since the exploitation of these lands began, countless children have been born, and now most of them are 5 years old like him. As they move forward, they meet Kurena and her father, and everyone goes together to the commoner's city. Kurena was extremely excited, hoping to receive the swordsman talent to become a knight. Upon arriving at the church, Aelin notices there are many boys, some of whom look very clean and are dressed better than them. He wonders if these are the commoners. While doing so, he notices a group of people looking at him and mentioning his black hair, which is very rare among serfs. Shortly after, officials welcome the future heroes of the lands and tell them that everyone will be given a chance, because even the nation's hero can be born a serf, like Saint Classis, who was born a commoner, or Swordmaster Dober, who was born a serf. Aelin is amazed and understands that he was to be of a low rank for the hero and weapon master classes. Now the conditions of the game are repeating in this place. They quickly enter the church, where Aelin notices 3 statues representing the gods of that world. In the center is Maya, the god of creation, the same one who sent him a message when he was 1 year old. Then the rituals begin, and the first one to step forward is the son of the town chief, named Paramus. Upon touching the crystal, the priest sees his statistics and announces that he is a merchant. His father gets excited because trade runs in his blood, while Aelin notices that every talent has a rank as well, taking the opportunity to write this down in his notebook, which he realizes only he can see. Then another boy passes, leaving in tears after discovering he has no talent. Among those appraised is Degora, the only one so far to have a skill at rank A, in addition to possessing the axe talent, and he was very excited. When the commoners finish the rituals, it is the serf's turn, and they pass through very quickly. Finally, it is the turn of Kurena, Gerda's daughter, who runs excitedly to touch the crystal. When she does, the entire place lights up, and the priests are surprised when they see the slate. Kurena asks them about the result without understanding anything, and the priest tells her she won the grand prize. Kurena's talent is Swordmaster. Everyone is surprised and excited to discover the existence of a swordmaster in their village. Gerda feels excited, although Kurena is not, as she had hoped to be a knight. For his part, Aelin expected something like this, otherwise nothing could explain her exaggerated strength. Finally, it is Aelin's turn. He steps forward thinking the moment has finally come for his parents to know he's a summoner, but when he touches the crystal, it goes dark. Aelin wonders what the hell is happening, but suddenly everything lights up with a power exceeding Kurena's. The glare pushes him back, but he gets up quickly to see the result with his father. However, the priest tells him that Aelin possesses no talent. Aelin remains in shock, wondering what is happening, and upon seeing the slate, he understands that his talent is completely unreadable. He begins to complain mentally to the god of creation, wondering how on earth he can say he's a summoner now. However, his father, Rodin, grabs him by the shoulders and calmly tells his son that it is time to go home. At night, when they are together, Rodin tells him they are still proud of him even if he doesn't have a talent. While Aelin thinks that despite their poverty and filth, he feels happy to be born into this family, even though everyone is actually younger than him mentally, he takes a look at his grimoire while everyone is asleep. He understands that he is the only one in hell mode in this world and that all his statistics are at rank E. He remembers that everyone appraised should be at level 1 like him, but their skill ranks were higher, which is proof of the potential for evolution based on leveling up. He wonders why he has everything so low. Although he understands that leveling up is 100 times harder, this also means it's 100 times worth the effort, so it isn't fair that his talent is unreadable. He complains once again to the god and decides he will do his best, but he also thinks about complaining to this god every night. Days go by, and as they walk together, Aelin asks his mother why his father looks so serious. She answers that he arrived late last night and has been in this state since then. After a while, arriving at Kurena's house, Kurena excitedly asks Aelin if he knew that being a sword master is stronger than being a knight. He pretends to be surprised even though he clearly knew. Matilda arrives with a strong drink gifted to them by the village chief. Rodin gets excited but soon returns to being serious. Observing him, Aelin wonders if his father is upset that Kurena is a sword master while he has no talent, but realizes his father isn't that kind of person. However, Gerda warns his friend Rodin that if he keeps that face, the drink will make him tired. Rodin replies not to spout nonsense, but Gerda comments that he seems unhappy for them, and Rodin angrily replies that he is happy, and it brings him great joy that Kurena possesses exceptional power. Gerda asks, then what the hell do you want to cut ties with him? Rodin answers that he doesn't want to do that, but Kurena has exceptional talent and could become a noble, and ideally she should not continue surrounding herself with starving, very poor people like them. Everyone present is surprised, and Gerda grabs him, telling him that changes nothing. For his part, Aelin feels it is time to intervene and asks Kurena if she needs to stop them. Kurena gets excited, but the mothers beat them to it and give the men a beating. Aelin is surprised and asks Matilda if his father and Gerda always fight. She reveals that they always have, but calms down a bit after the children were born. Before that, they fought over anything. Teresia reveals that them to four are friends since birth, and 10 years ago, when they heard about these lands, they all moved together to exploit them, so they joined forces to build their homes. While they talk, Gerda and Rodin remember the moment they built the houses together, and now that they are calmer, they toast to that. Days pass by, and one day, Gerda is told that a knight is looking for Kurena, who had just been fighting with Aelin. Now, in a scene change, while in the city, everyone talks about Kurena, but Dagora, the boy from before, asks Aelin what a talentless person is in this place. But Kurena intervenes to defend him, telling him that Aelin is a very strong person. Dagora tries to bite him, but Gerda grabs him before he causes a disaster. Meanwhile, the village chief announces that the knights have arrived, and Xenoph, the captain of the knights who is also a swordmaster, is introduced. Meeting with the village chief, Xenoph demands to see Gerda Kurena quickly. Her father is a bit nervous while Kurena is excited. For his part, Aelin thinks it would be sad if they took Kurena from the village now that she's a swordmaster. However, suddenly Gerda gets agitated and explains to Xenoph that his daughter has never held a real sword and is only 5 years old. Therefore, what he proposes is madness. But Xenoph replies that since she is a swordmaster, everything will be fine, and she must be put to the test. Otherwise, she will consider that they deceived the knights and the village chief, and tampering with the appraisal rituals is a sin punishable by death. Aelin feels things have gotten strange, while Xenoph orders the vice captain to get ready, as they must verify that the girl truly possesses that talent, and to do so, they must conduct a sword duel. Everyone in the village is surprised, while Gerda asks the captain to reconsider. However, Xenoph tells him that if Kurena does not fight, both of them will be executed. Meanwhile, a knight stands right next to Kurena, and when she sees the sword, she asks if she can take it. He confirms this, and Kurena excitedly tells her father she will fight, which almost causes him a heart attack. Now, in a scene change, she finds herself facing the vice captain of the knights who introduces himself as Librand. The fight begins, and without wasting time, Kurena attacks Librand, surprising everyone to see the little girl capable of handling such a sword. The problem is, when Librand gets serious, he pins her to the wall with a single kick. Gerda tries to intervene, but the knights stop him, as do Aelin and his father. Gerda feels frustrated because despite Kurena having great talent, she cannot compete with the true experience of the vice captain. However, Kurena gets up again and begins to release an aura from within. The vice captain gets nervous, and Kurena attacks him quickly. Now he can do nothing but defend himself. He realizes Corinna possesses an extra skill, and now with a single sword strike, the child breaks his sword. Zenov ends the fight, and Corinna thanks the vice captain with a big smile for the fight, commenting that he is very strong for an old man, even though the poor guy is only 24 years old. Zenov is surprised to see she's a real swordmaster and begins to pat the knights on the head. When Gerda picks up his daughter, she starts laughing. Zenov approaches them and tells him that he acknowledges Corinna's strength. He apologizes for his rudeness, although Gerda continues to show his displeasure. However, Zenov mentions that it is time to talk about his daughter's future and tells him that if he wants, his friends can accompany him. Now, at the village chief's house, Aelin sees that Gerda is still angry, which is very reasonable, but he wonders what is the axe boy doing in this place. His thoughts are interrupted by Zenov, who introduces himself again and tells them he is here by order of the lord of these lands, who wanted to verify that the rituals were not tampered with. He tells the village chief that the village usually bears the name of the chief, but since a sword master was born in this place, the lord of these lands now wishes to name the village Kureha. The village chief accepts without complaint, while Gerda's eyes nearly pop out of his head in amazement. For his part, Zenov reveals to them that 3 years ago, a sword master was born into a count family. However, this seems curious to Aelin, and while stealing fruits, he thinks that sword masters can only be born among serfs, commoners, and barons. Zenov continues telling them that the mentioned master entered the service of the royal family, but his work was not up to standard, and upon making him repeat the ritual, it turned out he was just a normal swordsman. Because of this, they discovered that many nobles had forged talent results. For this reason, the royal family has begun to mistrust ritual results, and for this reason, he apologizes once again to Gerda for putting his daughter to the test. Gerda accepts his apology, while Zenov reveals that she will enter the academy when she turns 12, to subsequently move to serve the royal family. Meanwhile, the boy with the axe asks if he can become a knight if he goes to the academy, which nearly causes its father a heart attack, and he rushes to apologize to Zenov. Zenov asks who this boy is, and his father introduces him, telling him he is an axe user and wants to become a knight. Upon hearing this, Zenov answers that he will send a teacher to the village and hopes the boy works hard to be able to enter the academy. Then Kureha tells Aelin that he should also study with her, but Dogora intervenes saying he has no talent, but Kureha orders him to be quiet because her friend Aelin is very strong. While he thinks, for his part, that a 5-year-old child is insulting him and his 5-year-old friend is defending him while he is actually 40 years old. Meanwhile, Zenov notices Aelin's black eyes and hair. Rodan tells him this is his son, while Gerda introduces his friend Rodan. Zenov stands up surprised and asks if he is the boar hunter. He apologizes for committing a folly, as he almost didn't greet the hero of that village properly. Rodan asks why he calls him that, and Zenov reveals that the lord of these lands is very pleased to receive the giant boar meat every winter that the village sends. He knows he risks a lot hunting them, so he congratulates him on his wonderful work and hopes he receives praise from his dear lord. Rodan accepts and shakes his hand, and after a while, he says goodbye to his friends. Upon heading home, he mentions that if a serf like him can earn the recognition of others, then, despite the harshness of life, they must continue living with their heads held high and with dignity. Aelin understands this. In the end, his difficulty lies in hell mode, and before returning home, he reveals to his father that he has a gift for his mother and Mosh. He asks if he shouldn't have done that, but his father starts laughing and reveals that he also did the same thing. What a pair of rascals! This concludes our episode today. To follow more episodes, please subscribe to the channel and activate the bell button to receive all new updates.